Hello, this is Ken Ferrie with this week's Boots in the Field report. Most growers are looking forward to putting this year in the books. It's been a struggle from the beginning and remains that way to the finish. But if we look back on the year, we still have a tremendous amount to be thankful for this Thanksgiving. And we have technology that our grandfathers didn't have. We have genetics that they didn't have. We have a government that respects farmers. While this hasn't been a cakewalk, today's farmers are better prepared and equipped to handle adverse conditions. Most of this is possible because we farm in the greatest country on earth. All of us here at CropTech are thankful to have you as a customer and your business, and to have you as a friend. And we wish you the happiest of Thanksgiving seasons. Getting some calls about fall burn down and whether or not it's still possible to get that done. The answer is yes. In our fall burn down plots, we've gotten good results from November through late February with our fall burn downs. It is a little more challenging spraying in freezing temperatures. You may have to add some 28% and be able to get that sprayer into a heated shop. And look for those windows where you can spray when it's above freezing. But when it comes to winter annuals like mare's tail or henbit, that window is wide for control. In a couple of conversations with guys dealing with water hemp and lamb's quarter this year in their short beans, are wanting to use a fall burn down to help clean up these fields. Fall burn downs will be of no use in controlling annuals like lamb's quarter or water hemp. These plants are already dead due to freezing temperatures. A fall burn down is not going to help much, if any, in stopping the seeds from germinating next summer compared to your soil applied residual chemistry that you'll be using next summer pre-emergence. We've had several conversations about planting beans early next year. Growers again see that their best beans are coming from their early planting this year. For most growers, planting beans this April was only a day and a half, maybe 2-day window, if that. Many growers were not ready to grab those 2 days. In a lot of cases, either the burn down was not applied or the fields were not level and ready to plant. In some cases, beans weren't even delivered yet. For you no-tillers and strip-tillers, now is the time to think about the process that you're going to use to get your burn downs on and your residuals applied for your early beans. Last spring, guys were waiting on their retailers to do their bean burn down, but most retailers were throwing everything they had at the corn programs and couldn't afford to pull a machine off to do a few soybean fields, especially with several of today's products that require flushing between crops. Do not surprise your retailer and expect to get your burn down applied the same day you call or come in the door. Now is the time to have that conversation with your retailer and come up with a plan that will work for both of you. Between selecting herbicides and seed traits, you may be able to come up with a combination where both you and the retailer can work together. It may not require him, for instance, to flush between fields. Or you may be able to plant the field and spray later. For the early planted non-GMO beans, more time must be put in this topic because your options are more limited. No-till, non-GMO beans are good candidates for the fall burn down. Have that field clean coming into April so that you can strike at any time when the conditions warrant. Several guys are doing some fall tillage on corn stalks and prep for early planting beans next spring, stating that their tilled fields were quicker to plant than their no-till fields. Now, this may be true, but several growers last April missed the tight window because the fields weren't level enough to plant. With fall tillage, you may want to look for an opportunity to level those fields this fall if conditions permit between now and February. Some of today's hybrid chisels can get the field level enough to plant in the spring, but most of them are going to need some help. The main point is, don't just dream about planting beans in April without putting a plan in place. with your own crew, your retailer, and your seed supplier. Seed selection alone can make a big impact on how your herbicide program can or will need to be laid out when you're planting, especially non-GMO beans, through everything traded all the way up to 2,4-D beans. A lot of combinations in there that you can put together. Remember, when ordering beans that you plan to plant early, our advice is to protect yourself against sudden death with the seed treatments. While conditions next April may not be conducive for SDS infection, cold, wet springs, the odds are pretty high. They're actually too high, and the yield loss from SDS is much higher than any premium that you're going to get from early planting. So unless your supplier can treat those beans at a moment's notice in the thick of the spring season, you should have this hurdle already cleared before spring comes. If we put a plan together and follow the plan, the odds of getting this task done go up dramatically. Just 2 or 3 days of April planted beans can raise the farm average by the end of the season.
So we finish out the week in Northeast Iowa. I'm sitting at the Farmers Win Co-op in Ridgeway, Iowa, talking to my brother-in-law, who is a manager here at the Winneshiek Co-op. Dave, driving the countryside here, I see a ton of corn and some beans still left to come out up here, and a good snow cover. Seeing the Wednesday's snow and wind, looks like it's got these outside rows pretty well drifted in. What's the story up here in the harvest? Looks like we're on the struggle bus trying to get this crop in.
Yeah, the southern part of our territory, I'm going to say 20 miles and further south, they're 95% done. Right here in this northeast corner, I would call it 65 to 70% done. It's just been a struggle all year.
What's been the holdup? Is it been a little bit of everything, or mainly weather, or what's got them locked up?
Mainly weather right in this area. This spring we started out with 2 to 3 inch rains. Just had a tough time, had a lot of June planted corn getting in here. Actually have a lot of prevent plant acres up here that did not get planted. And coming through the growing season, very little sunshine, not enough heat. We seen no matter when the corn was planted, everything black layered at about the same time, whether it was planted the 1st of May, 1st of June. It's just been a struggle, and we're fighting weather here this harvest with rainy weather, and now we've got our snow cover. So
we had a little bit of issues with LP gas down there in the Hayworth area. Did you guys run into some of the same issues up here as far as gas supply as well?
Yes, that was a big issue on part of this harvest. We had guys sitting anywhere from 5 to 10 days without getting any LP. Right now it is getting a little better, but still guys are waiting. Dry for a day and then wait for gas for another 2 days. It is getting better, but still kind of a challenge.
And I imagine right now, between the rain and the snow, there's probably not going to be, don't see any trucks coming through here today. Everybody's waiting for the snow to get off this corn. And is it firm enough out there to be able to harvest this without getting stuck?
With this snow right now, I think we can get through it, but it is not frozen underneath this snow. Some of these side hills up here, we're going to struggle with them. It's going to be a fight. We're looking next week, no moisture in the forecast, getting down in the mid-20s. So hopefully we freeze up, get a crust, get rid of the snow that's on the corn, and next week we can get back at her.
Is the consensus for everybody that they're going to go ahead and try to get this crop out, or are some of them starting to think about leaving some of this for spring?
Right now, they're going to try to get what they can, not on the side hills and that. They're going to try to get that out, but yes, we are starting to hear more talk of there's going to be some corn standing here next spring.
So as we look back at the season and what you went through, how does that play out in yields? Are guys seeing good quality corn and yields are looking for, or is it kind of struggling all the way through?
It's spotty up here. We go to our southern part of our trade territory. Farmers are very happy with their yields and for what they went through for the year. We go another 10 to 15 miles north of us here sitting in Ridgeway, banger of a crop up there. Here in Ridgeway, not so much. We're getting clipped a little bit. We had good corn, our May planted corn in that 200, 225 range. We get into our June planted corn, and that's anywhere from 130 to 180, probably at best.
What do you run into on moisture and test weight? Is it pretty good quality corn, or are you suffering some there too?
Earlier planted corn, decent, in the 20s. Test weights were good. Now we're getting into this later planted corn. Moisture is about the same, but our test weights are falling down into that low 50s. 50 to 53 has been a pretty good average coming in. So that's going to be a little bit of an issue maybe on storage quality and that type of stuff. But it seems like once one gets it dried, we're bringing that test weight up, but still not probably hitting that 54 on this later planted corn after being dried.
So I imagine that brings all kinds of other issues with it too. We get light test weight corn and that much drying time in it to keep the quality there, so you don't have anything going bad in the bin.
Yes, that's we're seeing guys trying to get it off the cob and coming in on a wet sample. We're seeing a little more grinding going on. We're going to see more fines in the bins. Guys just really going to have to keep on top of it and be checking them bins weekly.
So it's really nothing they can't handle, but it sure puts a struggle into finishing this crop up and getting it in the books for next year.
Yep, that's guys are just blinking their eyes and saying, well, hopefully next year's better, and that's all we can do, just taking it day by day.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I appreciate your time today and letting us get an update of what's happening up here.
This week, the plot crew got some more strip till plots in, looking at 2 different nitrogen inhibitors for anhydrous. They were also able to put out a fertilizer plot with a product that comes to us from the United Kingdom, which we'll be looking at as a source of sulfur and magnesium to replace or use in place of dolomitic limestone or K-Mag ahead of beans. We'll be pulling tissue tests throughout the growing season to see if it shows up in the plant, and of course we'll be checking the yield next fall and bringing that to you in next fall's winter meetings. The soil test crews continue to clean up the fields from the fall testing as weather permits. The office crew here is starting that process of getting your yield maps ready for the yield map meeting. Don't forget, the hand harvest is December 18th, the basics and advanced basic the 19th and the 20th. To stay up to date, check out our website at croptechinc.com and subscribe to our podcast, Boots in the Field Report. Keep her safe, keep her moving.